Hi everyone, today we're going to focus on visualizing a floor plan layout based on the desk density methodology we apply for a co-working or flex space within Asia Pacific. And this will be helpful because it means when you're looking at different buildings or you're speaking to an operator if you're a landlord and you're hearing different types of desk density per workstation numbers thrown around at you, this will help. And then I want to explain to you what that first year or two really looks like from an occupancy ramp up and a desk discounting perspective. Because when you run your white papers for approval, whether you're trying to do it yourself or you're building a business case for your first site, the first year is really crucial. Because understanding what that first year looks like also helps you negotiate what that deal structure could look like with that landlord if you're doing a lease or a management agreement structure. And throughout this video, because I just shot another video on my hobby channel where I talk about my collectibles, I figured I'd leave my slab container out here and talk about certain things like that when I start getting bored just doing the numbers, right? I'll show you some of these slabs that I have. The first one here, this one's a banger. I don't know if you guys grew up with Pokemon, but this is a first edition Shining Gyarados. One of the coolest cards ever, graded as a PCG9. Grading, really quick before we jump into this, is essentially, you know, when you go to an authenticator, they look at the card, they look how pristine it is, whether it's the corners, the edges, the surface, blah, 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 the centering of the card, because just because you get something new doesn't mean it's perfect. The printers could have done it wrong or something happened to it, so they can get graded. Anyway, jumping into the actual feasibility study, we're going to jump and look at a 2,200 square meter floor plate. Okay, a pretty generous size in these days. It used to go a lot bigger than that, maybe 3-4 years ago. The standard co-working floor plate side would be probably, you'd want 2,500 to 4,000 square meters because you get economies of scale with those businesses. The easiest way to describe it is if you've got more desks to sell and more space to re-rent, there's more margin because you still, within certain sized floor plates and operational structures, only need the same amount of people, systems, or infrastructure to deliver the same experience. Or it scales relative to the size in a way where it's mainly the cleaning and the electricity costs that scale with the size, but there's a certain amount of fixed costs, right? So the bigger you get, the more money. And that was the reason why a lot of co-working operators got in trouble, because the spreadsheets looked great, they went really big, and they couldn't fill it. So the rent caught up to them. So 2,200 in this market, if you've done your due diligence, it's a good asset, can still work. If we look at the spreadsheet here, maybe what I'll try to do with this video is I'm going to highlight which screen to draw your attention to, because I'm trying this new split screen thing. We're going to go to the spreadsheet now, but as a 2,200 square meter floor plate, I've got the desk density ratio set to 7 square meters per workstation per desk. We could probably bring this down to 6.5 just because you've got more place to play with. So we're dealing with 338 desks, right? Now I want to show you what a 6.5 square meter looks like on this floor. So let's assume both of these floors are 2,200 square meters. So this is example 1 and this is example 2. And then I'll show you what a 10 square meter density could look like. Okay. And it's going to be important because this helps shape the type of product you're going to be delivering, whether it's with a landlord partner or you're doing it yourself. So if we go with the 6.5 square meter density, which is pretty bang on as an industry standard within a co-working space, it doesn't mean it's just 338 desks in general. You've got, you normally split that up when it's in a CBD location or close to the city into a 90-10 ratio. Right, so that turns into 304 private office desks within offices, whether they're 6 to 8 person or 15 person. You normally figure that as part of your due diligence, and 35 in open plan workstations, so breakout spaces, right? And I'm not talking about free seating areas, but kind of like when you think about startup co-working spaces where they're just open plan workstations where people can kind of just drop and do work. They're only maybe 10% of that allocation. And the big reason for that is a decade ago, maybe that allocation would be a lot larger because the theory was the more people you get in on a single desk, they grow into a larger team, then they take an office and blah, 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 but that never really happened. And the deals done on open plan desks are month to month, not really 6 to 12 month licenses at a time. So in terms of revenue, it's not as reliable. It's not underpinned, right? It can fluctuate. And when COVID happened, that really made that apparent. So we're dealing with 304 desks in private offices. Now in a floor plan layout across 2,200 square meters, a 6.5 square meter density is pretty much going to look like this. Offices wrapped around the entire facade. You might have an entry point here. So these are the lifts. A relatively generous front of house area, but you'd still have, you know, this is going to look a bit yuck, but more offices maybe wrapped around here. So there's kind of like an ant farm circulation thing going on. Maybe not that, maybe not on both sides. Actually, I'll do it. Yeah, maybe not on both sides, but I think you get the picture. And then the concierge, and you can do all of kind of like tick amenity related stuff there. That's what it's going to look like. And it doesn't really matter what co-working operator you go to. If they're expected to hit a high market return equivalent, back of house is all going to look the same. Sea of offices, right? Which is why the branding is really important, the design, the look and feel, and what you do with that front of house area. So in terms of NLA allocation, a really good way to think about it is when you look at a 6.5 square meter density methodology, out of your 100% NLA, it comes to about, I'd say 60% desks, whether they're private office or open plan. You've got about 15% circulation, so where everyone can walk and that kind of thing. What's that, 75%? You've got about, I'd say 10%, so 60, 75, 85 as fit out buffer. So literally when you're designing for it, it's so that when you open doors and everything, or the circulation doesn't overlap in a way that's really a poor experience. And then the remainder, so 60, 70, 85, the remaining 15% is your amenity. Whether it's your front of house, it's your concierge, it's a work cafe, it's an event space, it's meeting spaces. That's essentially the allocation. And you actually get more amenity because the 15% circulation, maybe 5% of that is for the front of house area as well. But that's generally how it looks. If it was a 10 square meter density, so if we go here, you're only dealing with 220 desks, right? 198 in offices. So without overthinking it, it would really look like almost like this, where this becomes almost the front of house area, this whole quadrant here. And then you might have offices there and maybe an event space up here. You get a lot more areas to play with to make someone feel something within your location. And that obviously means that your rent per square meter or your return, your profit, will take a hit. It'll go down because you don't have as many offices to sell, even though you could argue those offices you could sell at a premium. Volume always beats a slight premium on desks when it comes to co-working. But the general consensus around the 10 square meter is if you're working with a landlord that actually wants something a bit different within their location, right? They want something different within their building because when they think about it, it reduces the downtime of the asset, and then it becomes an overall asset valuation play, not just the co-working P&L play. Because if I go to if I really quickly don't change any of the other inputs, yeah, you can kind of see a desk density of 10. So we only have the, the 220 desks. If it feeds through everything, your rent equivalent after you're taking your fee as an operator out, so the landlord sees about $450 a rent per square meter. If I change that back to 6.5, they're looking at close to $800, right? That's a significant difference. Obviously, there's other levers that would be changed here, including the rev share, profit share, the rent hurdle, all that kind of stuff if you change that dynamic. But that was just a really quick exercise to show you how, I mean, it's not rocket science. You got less offices to sell, you're making less money. And that's a big reason why a lot of these co-working operators are trying to figure out other channels of revenue, whether it's selling more meeting spaces, event spaces, or even leveraging their brand to create digital forms of revenue. Think about it as a restaurant almost, if we move away from co-working. The amount of food that you can turn over and sell as dinners and lunches is kind of pegged to the amount of seats that you can serve and hours that you can serve. right? So as a restaurant, you want to fit as many tables as possible to serve and not have too many areas that aren't conducive to that. Similar to co-working. However, with office, it's a bit different because people aren't just buying their table anymore, their seat. They're buying the collective experience. They want other areas to go to do things, host events, meet people, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of the dynamic. Now, when it comes to the occupancy ramp up, normally it's a 12-month. So zero, I'm going to put 24 months here. And this is 100% occupancy. Normally it's 12 months, but because it's a larger site, I'm going to bump this up to 15 months. Okay, and we're going to hit an 85% occupancy, and we're going to start at 20%, again, because it's a larger site. So if I say 20% here, and we say 12 months here, so 15's here, basically what you're going to see in terms of occupancy is it slowly goes up to that, to 85%, and then we try and keep the 85%. So that ramp up, going up, is because when you open the site, you start at 20% because you do pre-marketing. And then once you give yourself up to month 15 to hit 85% occupancy. Logan, are you all right? One second. Sorry, my son was just at the garage door, so I had to just check to make sure that he wasn't, because there's a few steps that go up. Actually, a nice break for me to show you something else. Oh, here we go. This one's one good one to talk about. It's Pikachu. This is from the 20th anniversary for Pokemon. The 30th is coming up, I think in September. So if Pokemon's been around for 30 years, so this one's from the 20th anniversary. Should be fun. I mean, you've probably been seeing a lot of stuff on the news about how crazy Pokemon's going and the return on investment that it's shown over the last 12 months. So people are really looking at it as a new speculative asset class. But here's a cool one that I'll show you. Where's my Ninja Turtles ones? Here we go. I'm really into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so that's a pixel art of the 4 turtles. Yeah, I know, I'm a nerd. Okay. So in order to hit that occupancy ramp up, you also apply desk discounts. So here we've got a listed rate of 750 per office desk, right? And remember, this is blended. So that might be between 500 to 900, depending on if you sell like really fancy offices with really great views and natural light, and the ones that are kind of tucked away in less desirable areas. So generally when you do a feasibility study, the 750 is a blended rate just for simplicity and to make it easier. What we've done here is in year 1, we've applied an 80% discount to really help that ramp up period, which means even though it's 750, you're actually giving your center managers, your on-site team, the ability to sell it at $600 a desk, which is really helpful because that means they can go from the 20% opening, try and get it up to 85%. But then the really important thing after that is retention, everyone. It's easy to fill day 1 because it's new, it's sexy, it's a fresh site, you do discounts, but then you have to deliver such a good experience that you can retain them and sell them back up from 60 to 750. Because if your budget, that was horrible, sorry. Because if your budget has you going from 600 to 650 to 7 to 750, it's not going to look like the same forecast that you have unless you bake the very slow laddering back into your market pricing. Okay, well, I'll stop there. I'm going to try and keep these videos a bit more shorter and sweeter and succinct for you, because there's a library of videos on my channel if you want to see like 45-minute long deep feasibility studies and analysis. But thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.